all of those psyops, it is still February. It is still February.
Conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous...
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.
Is so obsessed with Israel right now. And despite his and this whole administration's endless Zionist rhetoric, this is why, if you are pro-Israel, you are not currently America first. And until we deal with this problem, we are not a free nation.
About a year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share. It says, you know, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset. Meaning,
this part.
His plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But
you don't know? You don't know which Middle Eastern nations? So there's this entire trafficking ring made exclusively of Jewish billionaires, from the front man to the mastermind to the handler to the bank to the literal ex-prime minister of Israel, also the ex-head of Israeli intelligence. I'm sure that all these Jewish billionaires set up a trafficking ring on behalf of Iran, right? So it's an open secret at Fox News, in these political circles, that Epstein was an intelligence asset of some nation in the Middle East. I don't know if you haven't been paying attention, but the Jews don't get along too well with these Arab nations. What nation could they possibly work for?
Oh, Dan.
But the most critical part is that the blackmail was not exclusively in Epstein's possession, because that's not how that works.
Dan.
He was doing blackmail on behalf of a foreign intelligence service, targeting all of the United States' top people, all of our top scientists, politicians, wealthy
It's already
people,
beer time, Meg?
as well as British.
Shit, slow down, Meg. We got a long way to go. You're going to be hammered by the end of this stream if you start drinking beer already, dog. We're only in February.
Just anyone
kidding.
he can get his hands on. And all of that blackmail is possessed by whatever country he was working for to this day. And they won't give it to us. So even if they blow this story up, expose all the files, even if they show the tapes, which they won't and should not do, we still wouldn't be the only people in possession of them. Every single person on those tapes is controlled by some foreign country in the Middle East. It's like, what foreign country in the Middle East has an insane amount of influence over everyone in the United States for no explicable reason?
It's Qatar. It's obviously Qatar. Duh. It must be Qatar. Probably fucking Qatar. Right? Am I right? Am I right, my fellow guys? It's probably Qatar. I bet that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Qatar. For Qatar. What could be the other possible explanation?
We are told ad nauseum that claiming that Jewish people have allegiance to Israel over America is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Despite the fact that on TV every day we have explicit evidence coming directly out of their mouths that is often, not always, the case. And it's not always the case. And that's okay. But sometimes, frequently, at the top of power, it is the case. Such as Jonathan Pollard, one of the most egregious intelligence leaks in American history. He was an American Jew that, because of his Jewish heritage, had a stronger allegiance to Israel than America and committed high treason by giving Israel all of our secrets. This probably has a lot to do with Bill Clinton getting blackmailed by Epstein with the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That was all very tied together. Jeffrey Epstein himself is a perfect example. He's American. He was born in New York. His allegiance was clearly not to America first. Robert Maxwell, one of the most famous Mossad spies in the world, was born in Czechoslovakia. He was a British citizen, but his resting place is on the Mount of Olives in Israel. because he backstabbed just about every government he ever worked for or had citizenship with on behalf of them. Leslie Wexner, born in Ohio, American billionaire. Clearly his primary allegiance is to Israel if you do even an iota of research about him. This bro was running trafficking rings out of all of Victoria's Secret, as well as Abercrombie & Fitch and Hollister. And I just had to giggle because I accidentally noticed that Ehud Barak, ex-prime minister of Israel, head of military intelligence, key member of putting this trafficking ring together and managing it. Yeah, he wasn't born in America, but he was born in Palestine, ironically enough. And a massive, massive portion of American citizens today have this question. Both on Trump's side and on the left, and everyone in the middle is noticing, very rightly, that Trump and Tulsi and Cash and Pam Bondi, RFK, Marco Rubio, this entire administration, this entire cabinet, they've got great takes on America, in my opinion. Great takes on the FBI, great takes on the CIA, great takes on the deep state, great takes on taking down the corporate banker pharma control of our country. But every single one of them is a Zionist and extremely pro-Israel and pretends like Israel is our greatest ally, despite the clear evidence against that. Sure, maybe some Israelis are on our side. I'm sure there's lots of Israelis that are on our side, that are good people, maybe. There's certainly a lot of Jewish people around the world that are great people. But all of these people are very vocal about cutting funding to Ukraine. Ooh. That's great. But then they try to deflect and stay silent and just do a little dance every time we notice that we're spending more money on Israel than on Ukraine over the years. None of them are talking about cutting funding to Israel that is actively blackmailing the entire U.S. government, has a secret nuclear program, is committing a genocide. At the very least, it's an apartheid state. Their national economy is deeply intertwined in the diamond industry and all sorts of illegal international trade and human rights abuses around that in Africa. We have anti-Semitic speech laws in America when we can criticize our own government and our own president, but we can't criticize Israel. We can't even talk about it, or else we'll get kicked off the internet, kicked out of the government. And I hold out at least a sliver of hope for most of these guys, that they do understand what's going on and they understand the gravity of Israel's control, and that they are just tiptoeing and playing it careful and trying to get the job done here without starting a firestorm that's going to prevent them from doing that. But it's not looking super great. And just like, forget about all.
I was starting to see the writing on the wall. And we left off with Doge coming to save the day. Doge going to save the world. And February, if you remember, kicked off this giant USAID scandal. Real accountability. Shut down USAID. And to be fair, that was pretty cool. That was a cool moment. A lot of fraud in there. A lot of money laundering going on in there. But then it just kind of fizzles. And you have to kind of wonder, is this just a takeover? Is this just getting rid of the old system so you could bring in a new system? Is this just kicking out the old money launderers so you could bring in your new money laundering? Right? What's the story here? Because shutting down USAID seemed so great. And then it all went away. We got our tariff wars started. The tariffs are a running theme throughout the year. Haven't felt super enriched by that, if you ask me. But they kicked out the old USAID folks. They cleared out USAID. Oh, I double opened my tabs. And we focused on what really matters. Luxury resorts in Gaza. You remember Trump's plan that he came out with? A new Riviera. A new Riviera in Gaza. Keep your eyes peeled for new luxury real estate coming. in 2026 on the bodies of dead children. It's going to be great. It's going to be just fine. Fights over Doge. Fights over having kids in charge of the money. Let's just remember.
Delete entire agencies as opposed to leave part of them behind. Because if you leave part of them behind, it's easy. It's kind of like if leaving a weed. If you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back. But if you remove the roots of the weed, it doesn't stop weeds from ever growing back, but it makes it harder. So we have to really delete entire agencies, many of them. We really have here rule of the bureaucracy as opposed to rule of the people, democracy. So
Hector Shapiro in the chat.
We want to restore rule of the people. And so what that means is reducing the size of the federal government, basically reducing regulation. There's a tremendous amount of over-regulation that's happened over time.
Isn't it kind of interesting that this speech was delivered to this audience?
And this is an inevitable consequence of a long period of prosperity, is that you're going to get more and more rules and regulations, more laws
Hector.
accumulate over time. And the normal forcing function for getting rid of rules and regulations is war. So it needs to be some kind of existential war, where you have to do a reset in order to avoid being defeated in a war. This is literally throughout history, it's been the main forcing function for clearing out an accumulation of laws and regulation. In the absence of that, every year you get more laws and regulations until eventually everything is illegal and nothing is permitted. I think some of the things
I think we're all wondering by now if it wasn't just a giant play for Elon Musk to get more power and more money and more opportunities for himself and his buddies. Because it all looks a little sus by now. It all looks a little sus. Not a lot of money saved. Not a lot of money saved. But an awful lot of suspicious shit. And I'd be remiss not to mention that in February, the people's champion, Howard Lutnick, was confirmed as Commerce Secretary. And then he proceeded to stand over Donald Trump's shoulder and watch him as he made all of his America First decisions from there forwards. Jeffrey Epstein's old neighbor, in case you didn't know. He was chosen, though, for the job 5,000 years ago. In case you didn't know. So, it's a good thing that he got what he was promised. Old Howard. Old Lutnick.
Argue that point.
In February, ooh, check out that screenshot. In February,
And
the Epstein conversation started to broil. It started to simmer. It started to come up a little bit more and a little bit more as everybody realized that we're waiting. Kash Patel, we're waiting. We're still waiting. Donald Trump, you promised some things.
And so I asked him, have you read One Nation Under Blackmail? And his response was no. But I was a former congressman with security clearances, so I've read files that you couldn't even access. Like, oh, great, cool. You've read the official narrative. How insightful. I'm sure that your opinion is just so informed. Listen, if anyone is trying to tell you anything about Jeffrey Epstein and they have not read this 2-part volume from Whitney Webb, that's a red flag. Because, yeah, there's lots of ways to learn about Epstein. You could do your own research.
And I'm hammering this point because we've been knowing this for a long time. We've been knowing who Epstein worked for. We've been knowing who his nation was. We've been knowing who his network was. We know who his co-conspirators were. We know many of the Johns. We know all of it, and we've known it since before they started releasing censored files, trying to redact Donald Trump's name out of them. We know, and we've known all along, and we've been getting called conspiracy theorists and anti-Semitic freakazoids the whole time. But each piece of evidence that comes out all throughout the year just confirms more and more and more and more of it. We know. We know, and we know, and we fucking know. And we've been knowing. Even Dan Bongino been knowing. But that didn't seem to make a big difference once Danny Boy got into power. Let's just remind ourselves all of this classic clip. On the esteemed Tim Pool podcast.
A year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but I don't know who they are. Says, you know, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story.
FYI, we weren't assuming that. No one was assuming that, Dan. Anyone that had done any research about the story knew that the tapes were in Israel. They knew who had that blackmail, who'd been leveraging it over Clinton and everyone else ever since, Dan. But apparently Dan was slow to put two and two together. And it wasn't until he got in that his eyes were really opened to reality.
To go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But this person, who is a very, very good reporter.
I mean, the blackmail story also makes sense because we were explicitly told by victims that that's what they were doing. Because we were explicitly told by other intelligence assets that that was going on. Because they explicitly collected a whole bunch of blackmail-style content.
I mean, aces, right? Swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up.
I'm sure he was unwitting. I'm sure he didn't know.
And they're the ones who have all this stuff. So the point is, to sum it up, how do you know some of these countries aren't going to some of these power players who aren't making decisions because, hey, you wouldn't want this video?
Some of these countries, these unnamed countries in the Middle East.
They're right. How do you know?
100%.
I mean,
let's get personal.
Yeah. Just reminding us all about Bindergate. Maximum transparency, guys. Remember they gave us binders all the way back in February. Pam Bondi had them on her desk, and she delivered a whole bunch of bullshit. Bindergate. To all of the esteemed journalists. All of the esteemed alternative independent journalists. Very reputable journalists. Cernovich knew there was something wrong. Cernovich turning his head. He's like, get me the fuck out of here. Jack Posobiec coming in for the win. Guys, what a W. Guys, look at our binders. Oh, huge W. Oh my gosh, we're so proud. Let's line up for a photo. Yeah, the whole world has learned to read the chat, read the comments, and the comments know the truth. The comments knew the truth. Comments ain't being fooled. Even though Pam Bondi went on a little press tour.
Of documents. But yeah, we all did. And the FBI handed over a couple hundred pages of documents. But, you know, Sean, I gave them a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything. And a source had told me where the documents were being kept. Southern District of New York, shock. So we got them all by, hopefully all of them, Friday at 8 a.m.
It's all the Democrats' fault. The Democrats were just holding them all back from us. It's all the Democrats' fault. Meanwhile, the Democrats, it's all Republicans. It's all the Republicans that are in it. We're not a giant fucking club. We're not a giant club. Just shitting straight down your throat. Take the slop. Take the slop, people. Go away. Shut up.
Thousands of pages of documents.
Bondi for prison 2026.
I have the FBI going through them, and Cash is also, now that we have Cash here, it's a game changer, of course.
It's a game changer. It's a game changer. Thank gosh we have Cash App Patel here. Thank goodness we have Alexis Wilkins, the esteemed country music star, sensation. One of the greatest musicians to ever live. Thank goodness that she's on the case. Doing hardcore journalism on Twitter to keep the people informed of where exactly her boyfriend's balls are residing at any given moment. Thank goodness for Cash App Patel.
Cash is going to, Director Patel, is going to get us a detailed report as to why the FBI withheld all of those documents.
Okay.
Why did they withhold all those documents, Mr. Cash Director Patel? Mr. Cash App Director Patelison? Why did the FBI? It's all the FBI's fault. Why did the FBI do it? It's not Pam Bondi's fault.
I want to be clear because I think people got frustrated because they were expecting more. You were expecting more, and you didn't find out.
I want to be clear because I'm part of the intelligence apparatus that feeds the slop to the people. Let's feed the slop a little more directly down their throats.
Less than 24 hours before the release, you got a whistleblower that confirmed that there were way more documents that they were supposed to turn over, and then you found out just before that.
Well, sure. And you're looking at these documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. You know, there were flight logs, there were names and victims' names. And we're going, where's the rest of the stuff?
She worked in the attorney's offices in Florida during the entire Epstein initial case years and years and years ago. And she wasn't even familiar enough with the files, with the case, to realize that she didn't have shit, apparently. She didn't even realize that she was just giving over all this bullshit. I mean, like, here, it's a bunch of new shit that we already had unredacted, but don't worry, she'll redact it for you.
Stuff. And that's what the FBI had turned over to us.
Yeah.
And so a source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah.
So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Cash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, you know, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very.
Yeah, Cash was outside trying to find a windbreaker that would fit his little torso body. Cash was going to be in the interview, but he couldn't because he didn't have the right windbreaker. Didn't have a patch. He needed to wait. He needed to wait for a little girl to take a windbreaker off so he could wear it.
Very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein.
Like Donald Trump, obviously. You got to protect all the victims of Epstein, like Donald Trump. You got to protect those names, you know? Like, we got to be sure to censor those names like Leslie Wexner. The victims. He scammed Leslie Wexner. Leslie had no idea that he was funding the largest trafficking ring known to man.
There are a lot of victims.
You had identified in phase
Leslie.
1 over 254.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is that the only thing that would be redacted? Will everything else be made public that you get in your possession?
Yeah, the FBI hasn't had, obviously, they haven't looked at the thousands of pages of documents that they've just received Friday. Yeah. But Cash has a team going through them, and it's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know. The Biden administration said on these documents, no one did anything with them, and why were they sitting in the Southern District of New York? I want a full report on that. You know, sadly, these people don't believe in transparency.
We see the game, right? We all see the game here. We see both sides of the bird, both wings flipping and flapping, trying to keep the people divided, trying to feed you their bullshit. Right? It's all a bunch of lies. It's all political theater.
But I think more, unfortunately, I think a lot of them don't believe in honesty. And it's a new day. It's a new administration. And everything's going to come out.
And down your throat. Fedslop. Everything's going to come out my arsehole and straight down your throat. I'll save you the rest of this interview, because that's what she's about to say. It's all going to come allegedly. Allegedly, she's about to say, everything's going to come out of my arsehole, and we're going to put it straight down your throat. And you're going to like it. Or else you're anti-Semitic, actually. That's pretty much the theme of the year. I was like, oh no, did I have a horrible take?
Just released the Epstein files. They just put them all online, unredacted, and now we have all the information. Not. What they decided to do instead is to have a private meeting with a bunch of very mainstream conservative influencers in the White House, where they gave them all binders of the current first phase of disclosure. And now everything is going crazy. I'm going to try to not be super sassy and to actually give a balanced take on this one. First off, why is it not online in PDF format first right now already, so that everyone can look at the information and understand?
Yeah, we know how that story went. We know how it went. It's still going. They've now been legally mandated to release them, and they're over their deadline. They've been redacting people that aren't victims. They've been fucking it all up in every single direction. It's a shit show. Let's take a check-in with another shit show. Y'all remember this moment? Do you remember this moment? I can't play it, actually. It's got music. We'll silence it. Yeah. Yeah, you remember Musk and his chainsaw of destiny or whatever it was? Yeah. It was a sign. It was a sign. Yeah, we should have known. I mean, by then I did know. By then I was like, what the fuck is going on? And if you were already well aware of it before all of this, then good on you. Good fucking on you. You knew. You knew. Because it was a sign of what was to come. It's all theater. It's all made up. It's all bullshit. Whatever the hell this is, yeah.
Secretary of Health and Human Services.
But we still had hope for RFK, some of us. Still had this dying sliver of hope for RFK.
Even if
here's me on InfoWars talking to Harrison.
Would be the tie-breaking vote, which means we're at 51. So there it is, folks. RFK Jr. of California is now the Secretary of Health and Human Services. We're coming for you, Big Pharma.
We're going to take your red dye away, Big Pharma. No more red dye for you, Big Pharma. You better believe it. You better believe you're not going to have your red dye anymore. You can still keep vaccinating all the children, but just no red dye, whatever you do. Whatever you do. Don't put red dye number 3 in the food, Big Pharma. We've been talking about this all year long. All year long. And we've been getting all the pushback in the world on it. You know, chat, I'd be curious what you think. I think that Tulsi might be one of the few people that I actually haven't seen. I mean, I really haven't seen anything about Tulsi basically the whole time. But I haven't seen Tulsi do anything retarded. I think because I haven't seen Tulsi do anything. Which I think means she's working behind the scenes. She is the National Intelligence Director. I'm not super hopeful. She is a diehard Zionist, last I checked. But who knows? Brief comedy break.
السلام عليكم يا جماعة. أهلا وسهلا فيكم. خلينا نقللكم على الحروف الأبجدية. يلا خلينا نبدأ.
So during the whole USAID debacle, we did learn at least that at least some of our tax dollars was going to one really amazing place. And that was whatever the hell this Sesame Street cartoon was. Whatever this was. Don't know what it was, but at least it was funny. So, at least the government can do something right. Like glucking our boy Benji.
On Earth. And right now, why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places.
Look at that goblin. As a woman cries out, but it's their home, sir.
On Earth. And right now, I've seen.
And he just watches his good little goy defend Israel, defend him. He's dreaming up his plans to ask for a pardon. We'll get to that later.
In every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build, why would they want to return?
If we can just build a really nice hotel, we'll just build the nicest hotel. We'll sell the real estate. It's going to be great, folks. It's going to be great. And
there's some weird...
Just a reminder that the France story was still going on. The France story goes on the entire year.
Stuff going on in France. Brigitte Macron backed an erect phallus with golden balls as the new spire for Notre Dame Cathedral. Brigitte Macron personally wanted to put a gigantic golden dick on top of Notre Dame. That is legitimately a true story.
True story. I miss Chase Geyser and I miss that laugh. Yep, that is a real story. Technically, it's an old story. Technically, it's from January of 23, but I just couldn't help but remind us. That Brigitte Macron, that story's been raging all year long. That story's been raging hard all year long. So, February, obviously a winning month. Obviously, in February, disclosure started. Maha was winning. Everyone was happy. Everything was great. No problems in February at all. Now, yeah, was February the month when Big Balls got in trouble? I don't think so. I think that was March. I'm pretty sure that we have Big Balls in here somewhere in March or April. We'll see. We will see. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break with the chat. After I drop my ad on you one more time, go get Buyer. Go download it from the App Store. Get it on the Google Play Store. Get it on the App Store. And figure out who owns everything. And stop giving your money to all the corporate overlords that are running the show and feeding you slop. Feeding you red dye. Trying to poison you with red dye. Instead, shop family and founder owned, support small and local businesses, and make America just a little bit more American again. Or use it internationally and make wherever you are a little bit more where you are again, because it works all over the world. So, that's February for you, folks.
That would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.